Hey, it's Alexis. Thanks for clicking on today's video. Today we're going to be talking about all the 69 books that I read in 2023. I have this so that I say them in order. That's the only reason why. But the first book that I read in 2023 was Part of My World by Jodi Benson, which is her memoir. If you don't know, Jodi Benson is who plays Ariel in the original Little Mermaid movie. And she's like one of my favorite actresses. So I wanted to know more about her life. And this was actually very interesting. It's a memoir though, so I don't really feel comfortable reading those. But if you enjoy Jodi Benson, I highly recommend reading this one. The second book that I read in 2023 was called So This Is Christmas by Jenny Holiday. I gave the book 1.5 stars. It took me forever to get through it, and I just didn't like it. I don't know how really to explain it. I don't know. I did not get along with the character, and I did not like it at all. I do not recommend that one. Nothing against her. Like, I'm sure she's a great author. That book and me did not click. I might try another one of her books later on, but as of right now, no. I don't even have that book anymore because I got rid of it. Like, I highly don't recommend it. The third book that I read in 2023 is called As Old as Time by Liz Broswell. It is a fairy tale retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It says, what if Belle's mother cursed the beast? So now Belle's mother is the enchantress. Like, I had to read it because, first of all, Beauty and the Beast is my all-time favorite movie. And secondly, I've been, loving these fairy tale retellings. So I gave this one 4 stars. But I did have to read it I had to start it 3 different times before I could finally understand it, because the first few chapters I was so confused. I think in my head I was just making it out to be the actual Beauty and the Beast story, when that's not what this was supposed to be at all. So I liked it a lot better the third time. It finally clicked in my head and I really liked it. I do recommend this one. The fourth book that I read in 2023 was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I know Colleen Hoover is very debatable with people, I guess is what I want to say. You either like her or you don't. I liked her books, the few that I read so far, but I can see everyone's perspective on why they don't like them. But I did rate this one 5 stars, and it did kind of jumpstart me into reading more. After I finished this book, I was like, oh my goodness, I loved that. I want to read more. So it has a soft spot for me. But I do understand why people don't like her. I just don't understand all the extreme slander that she gets. But I recommend this book. But I do also recommend looking up the trigger warnings, because there are quite a few. Then after that one, I went straight into It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, because I loved Atlas, so I wanted more of him, which is what this book is. Then I started A Man Called Ove, or A Man Called Ove. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced, but I say Ove. But I could not get into that book. I don't know what it was, but it's taking me forever. I forced myself to read it and then kind of put myself in a little reading slump, so I don't recommend that. If there's a book and you're struggling to read it, do not force yourself to finish it. That is one of my recommendations. But I finished it, and then I watched A Man Called Otto, the movie. Loved that one so much more than the book. It's based off the book, obviously, but I wish I would have just watched the movie and not read the book. And that is one of the first times that I'm going to say that There's a few movies that I like better than the books, but usually I'm like the book always. But yeah, Man Called Ove, I gave three stars. And I want to actually change it to like 2 because I cannot get into it. The 7th book that I read, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Okay, this book. Look up the trigger warnings before you read it. But this book had me bawling like a little baby. I loved this one. It was 5 stars. I don't have any other words for it. This one, I just loved it. The next book I read, Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I've never heard of this author before, but I did see this at Barnes & Noble in January, and I was like, okay, love this cover, love the description on the back, I'm gonna get it. And I was literally reading this at school, and I was laughing. Like, it's so cute. I gave it 4 stars. It's about 2 childhood friends who became enemies, but they weren't really enemies. It was more of a miscommunication type thing, and then they end up falling in love. So I highly recommend this one. After that, I started reading on my Kindle, so yay. The first book I read on there was Accidentally Amy by Lynn Painter, and I thought that one was very cute. It was about this girl who started work at a new job, but before that she goes to get some coffee, and they're taking forever, so she didn't want to be late. So she just grabs the first coffee that pops up, and the person's name was Amy, which is not her. But so she takes it, and then it turns out she runs into a guy, which happens to be her boss. So now he thinks her name is Amy, and so she's living this double life until she tells him the truth, you know. But I thought that one was really cute. Then the next book I read, I also don't have, because I read this from the library. But it's called The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. So I really liked the premise of this book. It was basically 3 women get stood up on Valentine's Day by the same guy. And I was like, oh, like, that's very interesting. And so I went into it with, like, this expectation that I'm not going to like this guy. Like, he sounds kind of like a jerk. But turns out he wasn't. And the 3 people that got stood up basically was different years in time. It was not at the same time. And there's good reasons that these people got stood up. So I recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read on Valentine's Day was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. It is basically a Groundhog's Day trope where the main character, Emily, relives Valentine's Day over and over again until she gets it right. And it's really cute. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and I highly recommend it. Another book that I read that I don't have with me is X's and O's by Amy Leah. I didn't like this one as much as I thought I was going to. It's about a book influencer falling in love with her roommate. I think he was a firefighter. It was more cringy to me than anything. The way that she was trying to write about the influencer just cringed me out. I don't really know how to explain it. I still gave it 3 stars, and I thought it was cute. It was just kind of cringy, so it wasn't my favorite. But then I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, and she became one of my favorite authors. Like, right after reading this one, I just fell in love with these characters. If you don't know, Ali Hazelwood writes basically about women in STEM. This is Olive, and she's in school for her PhD, and her and her friends are talking about how she doesn't have a boyfriend, and she's like, no, I definitely do. So she kissed the first guy she sees, which happens to be a professor at the school, and then they start fake dating to tell her, like, show her friends that she's over this guy. and I just recommend this one. It's really cute. I gave it 5 stars, like I said. And then after that, I read the first novella in this little Loathe to Love You book by Ali Hazelwood, which is called Under One Roof. I gave this one a 4 stars, which is the highest I've ever rated a novella. But I just really love that one. It says, an environmental engineer discovers that scientists should never cohabitate when she finds herself stuck with the roommate from hell, a detestable big oil lawyer who won't leave the thermostat alone. They did not get along for anything in this world until they fell in love. Then I read the second novella in here, which is called Stuck With You. It says, a civil engineer and her nemesis take their rivalry. Yeah, there we go. Rivalry and love to... They take their rivalry... I can't even say it anymore. Stuck on You is about a civil engineer and her nemesis who take their rivalry and love to the next level when they get stuck in a New York elevator together. I thought that one was really funny. So I gave it 3 stars. And then after that, I read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. Rowan and Zara, man. I absolutely love the two of them together. And if you don't know, I'm obsessed with Disney. Always have been. But this book is basically Disney World, but it's called Dreamland. And Rowan is in charge of coming up with new concepts and ideas for Dreamland. I highly recommend this. This was a 5-star read for me. Then I read The Last Chance Road Trip by Sarah Jane Woodley. I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was really cute. It's about these people that used to be friends when they were younger. And then his grandpa dies. And in his will, he wants him to go on one last road trip with his old best friend. So, it was really cute. And then after that, I read the final novella in this book called Below Zero. It's about a NASA engineer. And I gave this one 3 stars as well. Then after that, I read on my Kindle again The Next Worst Thing by Sarah Jane Woodley. After I read the little Last Chance Road Trip by her, I decided that I really liked her as an author. So then I found another book of hers on Kindle Unlimited. But I do want to get the physical copy of it too. But I thought that one was really cute. I gave that one 4 stars and I recommend it. Then I read The Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I highly recommend this book. It is so cute. It was about Ari and Russell. And they are both, she's a meteorologist and he was a sports broadcaster on the same weather channel, basically. News channel. Not weather channel. On the same news channel. And they are upset that their bosses are always angry because their bosses are going through a divorce. So they team up to try to get their bosses to fall back in love. And then in the process, they fall in love. It was very cute. Then after that, I read Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is about these 2 kids, Pepper and Jack. You know, Pepper Jack, because it's cute like that. Both of their families own restaurants or delis. And they end up having this Twitter competition to see who can get the most customers and to see whose restaurant ends up on top. And they try to sabotage each other's. And it was just really cute. Then after that, I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I finished this book in a day. I was so obsessed with it. This was a 5-star read for me. If you don't know what it is, it's about this girl who gets contacted by a lawyer basically saying, hey, you won this inheritance by this guy who died. He died and left his inheritance to you. And she was like, I don't even know who that guy is. And this guy's family's mad that he left the inheritance to this random girl. But she has to go through and solve all these puzzles and riddles to receive her inheritance. I highly recommend this series. Because I was so obsessed with that book, I then immediately went into book 2 and book 3. Also read them both in a day. And second one I gave 5 stars too. And then the third one, in my opinion, it wasn't needed, but I still really liked it. So this one was 4 stars. But I highly recommend reading this whole series. You will not regret it. And then after that, I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. It's about Liz and Wes. They are next door neighbors who have a little feud about a parking spot in front of their house. And then Liz is in love with this guy, Michael, who they used to go to school with, and he moved away and he moves back. But she's scared to talk to him, so she asks Wes for help to try to get Michael back because Wes and Michael are good friends. And then things take a twist. But I highly recommend this book. It's really cute. And then I went into The Love Wager by Lynn Painter because I was obsessed with Lynn Painter. Like, every book of hers that I could read, I was reading. This is about Hallie and Jack. And they meet at Jack's sister's wedding. And they come up with this wager to see who can get a date first and who can fall in love first. It's really cute. I recommend this one. This was 4 stars for me. Then after that, I read November 9th by Colleen Hoover. And this one also made me cry like a baby. It's about Fallon and Ben. And Ben is an inspiring novelist trying to write a book. And he ends up writing the book about something that happened to Fallon many years ago. Then after that, I read Lost in a Book by Jennifer Donnelly. Again, it's another twist type thing on Beauty and the Beast. In this book, Belle is in Beast library, like reading books, and then this book starts talking to her, and she was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, books can't talk. What's happening? And then she was able to step into the book and go into, like, the world of the book. And then the book tried to suck her into it. It, like, would not let her leave. And all this weird stuff started happening. I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it was really cool. It's, like, a cool concept. Okay, I did not finish this book. But I then started Hooked by Emily McIntyre, and this was a DNF for me. I made it exactly halfway through this book, and I just couldn't do it. I realized that I am not a dark romance person, as much as I wish I was, because everyone loved that book. I just couldn't do it. But if you're into dark romance, then maybe you would like it, but not me. Then after that, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And oh my goodness, this book was so good. It's about Piper, who had to come up with an idea for like her senior project. And she decides she's going to reopen a case that was closed 5 years ago because she didn't believe that the killer they said was the killer was actually the killer. So she reopens the case and actually solves it and finds the real killer. It was pretty interesting. Next, I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This was a 5-star read for me. Absolutely became obsessed with Lucy Score after this. It's about Naomi and Knox. Knox is a little bit of an immature child sometimes, but it's Grumpy meets Sunshine, so that's like to be expected. But Naomi comes to this little town called Knockemout because she got a call from her sister, Tina, that her sister needed help. And when she shows up, her sister is nowhere to be found, but she leaves her daughter, Waylay, behind for Naomi to start to take care of while Tina goes off and does who knows what. So then you just now have Naomi learning how to be a parent to her niece, and then you have Knox and the whole town of Knockemout trying to help her figure out where her sister went and why she's now raising her niece that she didn't even know she had. So, it's a really good book. Then I read Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. It's about two people who both of their families own bookstores. Her family bookstore has been there forever in this small town, and then they open their bookstore like across the street and become huge competition. So it was really cute. 3 stars. Then after that, I read The American Roommate Experiment, and I'm so proud of myself for saying that name correctly because I keep saying experience. But The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Ormaz. This book took me a little bit to get into it, but I finished it. I gave it 3 stars. It was kind of a cute story. I just don't think I really liked the 2 characters together. I think that was my issue. Next I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was probably my favorite read of the whole year. This was 5 stars. Evelyn Hugo was a movie star back in the day, and she decided that she wants to write her memoir of her life, but she only wants one certain person to do it, and if she refuses to write it, then she's not going to write her book. So Monique is the person she wants to help write the book. She finally agrees to it, and then later on, like as she's getting the story, she finds out why she is specifically the one that Evelyn wanted to have write the story, and is very, very plot twisty. I highly recommend it. Next I read The Beach House by Beth Ruckles because I wanted something short. It's just a little novella. If you've seen or read the Kissing Booth books, this is a little novella in between them. And so it's cute. I gave it 3 stars. Then after that, I read You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Howell. I highly recommend this book. It's about Naomi and Nicholas, who are a married, well, they're not married, they're engaged. They're an engaged couple about to get married, but she realizes that he does things that annoy her, and she wants out of this marriage. Well, she wants to call off the wedding, is what I mean. She wants to call it off, but she doesn't want to have to pay for it. So she is trying to force him to call it off so that he has to pay for everything. But then he's also doing things to have her call it off so that she has to be the one to pay for it. And then they end up falling back in love. It's very cute, and I highly recommend it. Then after that, I read another book on my Kindle. It's called Needs More Time by Nellie Wilson. It was written during COVID, so it talks a lot about COVID. But it's about this teacher who took her kids to this summer camp, I think, and falls in love with the camp counselor, basically. But I gave it 2.5 stars because of the COVID thing, I think. I didn't want to read about that anymore. Then I read To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. If you've seen the movies, you know what this book is. But it's basically about this girl named Laura Jean who she writes these notes to the 5 guys that she's ever loved in her lifetime, and they accidentally get sent out to them. She was never planning on sending them, but they accidentally get sent out, and now all these guys know her true feelings, and It is really cute. Then I read The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And I gave it 5 stars. It was really, really funny. And I related so much to the main character. So it's basically about these 2 people who work at a radio station, and their boss comes up with this idea of a podcast hosted by exes. Well, these 2 technically are not exes, but they argue like they are. So they had them faking being exes to put on this podcast. And it was really cute. And it also talks a lot about grief, because Shay lost her dad. And so it's also a little bit about her journey getting through the grief. And I relate a lot to that. So this book was 5 stars for me. And then the next book that I read was called Heartbreakers and Fakers by Cameron Lund. I think that's how you say it. It is about a little high school romance. They were at a party, and she ends up making out with her best friend's boyfriend at her boyfriend's house. So lots of drama comes from that, as you can imagine. So this was like 3.5 stars for me. Then after that, I read Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, the second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I really liked this one. The first one will always be my favorite, but this one was 4 stars. I did not really care for Declan that much. He's kind of a jerk, but Iris is my girl. I really loved Iris, but I do highly recommend this whole series, but the first one will always be my favorite. Then I read a little novella by Lynn Painter called Better Than the Prom. It was basically just like an extra chapter to Better Than the Movies, but it was of Liz and Wes at the prom, and it was so cute. I gave that one 2.5 stars because it was like 30 pages long. Then after that, I read Kisses and Croissants by Anne Sophie Joanna Hugh. I don't even think I said that name right, and I'm so sorry if I didn't, but this book was very, very, very cute. It's about this girl who does ballet, I believe, and she goes to France and has a little adventure while she is auditioning for a big ballet scholarship. It's very cute. Gave it 4 stars. Then I read Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This one also made me cry. It's about Kenna, who is in prison for a mistake that she made 5 years ago. While she's in prison, she has a daughter, but she has to obviously give her daughter up while she's in prison. And then when she gets out, she tries to locate her daughter. And it's just very emotional. And this was a 5-star read for me, so I highly recommend this one. Then after that, I read Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know nothing about tennis, but I love this book. It is about Carrie, who had like a high record, and then she goes into retirement, but then she hears about this girl that's about to break her record, so she comes out of retirement to keep her title. I highly recommend this book. And then after that, I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It is about these 2 characters who were childhood best friends who are making a video game together. And then it also talks about like their life and stuff. I didn't really know if I was going to like this book at first because of the video game aspect of it. But that is such a small aspect of this book, if we're being honest. And this book is just so good. I highly recommend everybody read this book. And then I read Bad Luck Bridesmaid by Allison Rose Greenberg. And it's about this girl named Zoe. She keeps trying to be a bridesmaid in her friends' weddings. And then every wedding that she attends, they never happen. Like, something always goes wrong and the wedding's called off. So she thinks it's her fault and has to do with her. She thinks she is the common denominator. And it was kind of cute. I gave this 3 stars. And then I read Boy Meets Boy by David Levithan. I think that's how you say it. It is a story about this guy named Paul who lives in this world where being straight is the minority. He falls in love with this guy named Noah, but then blows it. And everything that could go wrong goes wrong. And it was cute. It was very short. It was less than 200 pages. 183 pages. So if you're looking for some cute little book, I recommend this one. The next book I read was It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is about Piper, who gets in trouble, so her stepdad sends her away, and there she falls in love with a guy named Brendan. And while she's also there, she learns more about who her father was, because she's in the town that her father grew up in. So she learns a lot more about him. And then after that, I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. It is about Augustus and January, who are both authors. They decide that they are going to try to write each other's genre of book. So she is a romance author and he is a literary fiction author. So they decide they're going to write a book of each other's genre. And this one was so adorable. Highly recommend. This was a 4.5 stars for me. And then after that, I don't have this book anymore because it got wet in the rain. But after that, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I highly recommend that book. Oh my goodness, it was 4.5 stars for me. If you don't know what it is, it's about this girl named Addie LaRue who makes a deal with the devil to live forever. But the only way that she's allowed to do that is everybody that she ever meets forgets who she is. Until one day she finds someone that doesn't forget her. It is so good. I highly recommend reading that one. And then after that, I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. It's about Bee, who works for NASA and is offered this really cool job somewhere else. But then when she gets there, she realizes that her colleague is going to be someone that she did not like when they were in school together. She was kind of annoying, a very annoying character. I liked the guy way more than I liked her, but I still thought it was cute. I gave it 3.5 stars. Then after that, I read Mr. October on my Kindle. It was a 65 little page novella. I don't know if I would recommend it or not, because it was a story that was making sense until you got to the last chapter, and then it was just she threw a bunch of stuff in there and then it was over. So I guess if you want to read it, read it. But I don't know if I'd recommend it. I gave it 2.5 stars. And then after that, I also read on my Kindle Awkward in October by Teresa Yea. Y-E-A, I guess is how you say it. Sorry if I'm butchering this name. It was an okay book. But it was also, weird things happening in the book. It was funny. But it was also, kind of what in the world is going on type things. But I guess I do recommend it because it was cute. I did give it 3 stars. And then after that, I read My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I highly recommend this book. It is so cute. It is based in Chicago, and it's about Cassie, who is looking for somewhere to live, and she sees this listing on Craigslist for an apartment for $200, and she is like, okay, this has got to be too good to be true. But when she gets there, she doesn't see her roommate anywhere. And she's just like, well, here's a note from the roommate on the table, like, introducing himself and stuff. And she's like, well, I guess I'll try it out. The worst thing that happens is I have to move back home. And so she tries it out, and later on then finds out the reason she didn't meet her roommate the first day is because he's a vampire. So he was sleeping during the day. And there's Taylor Swift references in there, and it's really cute. The next book I read was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I had originally started this book earlier in the year, and then I DNF'd it. But then I decided to give it another chance, and I really liked it the second time. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then I watched the show on Apple TV Plus, and the book was way better. And they like changed stuff in the show. I didn't appreciate that. But this book is about Elizabeth Zott, who I believe this book was set around the 50s. So she's trying to become a chemist in this world where people think that only men can do that stuff. So she's proving to everyone that just because she's a woman, she can do whatever she sets her mind to, basically. I thought it was really good. Then after that, I read Never Too Old for Fairy Tales by Melissa John. I found this on my Kindle and thought it sounded really cool. It was also a book that's kind of based on, like, Disney, like the theme park Disney. But it was, like, I don't remember if the, like, theme park actually had a name or not. I can't remember if it did. But it was a really cute book, and I want to get the physical copy of it, and I also want to read the second one, because there was a second part to it. But I haven't read it yet, but I really want to. I gave that one 4 stars. And then I also read another little 40-page novella from Lynn Painter called Better Than Before, which it takes place before Better Than the Movies, but after Betting on You, or like around the same time. And it has Charlie and Bailey from Betting on You and Liz and Wes from Better Than the Movies in it. It was really cute. I gave it 2.5 stars. Then after that, I read Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. Friends is one of my favorite shows. It always has been. And I really love Matthew Perry. So I wanted to learn more about his life. And this book was really good, but also really sad. And I really felt for him. I highly recommend this book. And then after that, I read The Kissing Booth by Beth Reckles. This is another time where I will say that the movie is better than the book. Yeah, I gave this book 2.5 stars. But the movie, I'm absolutely obsessed with. So, in this case, I would say skip the book and just read the movie. Hey, it's Alexis. I was just watching the video again after I filmed it. And I realized when I was talking about The Kissing Booth that I said that I recommend that you read the movie. And I don't know how you're supposed to read a movie. So I meant watch the movie. Or I guess if you wanted to read the movie, you could watch the movie with subtitles on. But I just wanted to clarify that I meant watch the movie. And I'm sorry that I said it. But if you don't know what this is about, it's about Elle and Lee, who are best friends, and they have to come up with an idea for their school carnival, and they choose to do a kissing booth. And she ends up kissing Lee's older brother at the kissing booth, and then things go crazy after that. But I do recommend the movie more than the book. Then after that, I read Mirror, Mirror by Jen Calonita. If I said that wrong, I'm so sorry. But this is basically a retelling of Snow White. So it says, what if the evil queen poisoned the prince? So instead of Snow White getting poisoned, the prince gets poisoned. I really liked this book. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I recommend, so this is like a part of a series. They're all standalones, but there's like 15 of them in the series, and I recommend reading all of them, honestly, but like, especially this one. This one was really good. Then after that, I read She's Up to No Good by Sarah Goodman Confino. Again, if I said that wrong, I'm so sorry. But it's about this girl named Jenna who is coming out of this like really bad marriage, and she moves back home with her parents and ends up going on a road trip with her grandma to the town that her grandma grew up in, and she's learning a lot about her grandma's history and meets the guy that her grandma was with before she met her grandpa, and like why she married who she married instead of this guy. It was so good. I highly recommend that one. Then the next book I read was The Long Game by Alana Armaz. It's about this girl named Adeline who gets in trouble and gets sent to this small town to coach a soccer team. She's thinking it's going to be men's soccer, but when she gets there, it's a team of 9-year-old girls. And there's also this guy, Cameron, who's already coaching them, who she then has as her assistant coach for this team. And it's really cute. I highly recommend this one as well. That one is a lot better than The American Roommate Experiment by her, in my opinion. And then I read So This Is Christmas by Tracy and Doreen. And it's about Finley and Arthur who go to this prep school together. And Finley decides that she is going to update her hometown's website to make it look like this cool place to visit because it's called Christmas, Oklahoma. So she makes it look like more Christmassy than it actually is. And she shows people at her prep school their town's website. And Arthur ends up changing his and his aunt's plans after he sees the website. And he decides he's going to come visit Christmas, Oklahoma and do all these Christmassy things. And when he gets there, she realizes that that he like came there because she lied on the website. So then her grandma forces her to take him and his aunt around and do all the things that she had promised on the website. It was really cute. I gave it 3 stars. And then after that, I read on my Kindle Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. And that one was really cute. It was about, I can't remember their names, honestly. But it's about these 2 characters who... Yeah, that's the one. Sorry, I thought I got it confused with the different one. Hey, it's Alexis. And as I'm watching through this video, I realized that I mixed up 2 of the books. And so Holiday Romance was about these 2 people who live in Chicago but are trying to get home to Ireland for the holidays. And they end up sitting next to each other, like, I think 10 years in a row. And it's telling their story, basically, from, like, the first time they met until now. And then it's the story of them getting home for the holidays. And then Fool Me Twice at Christmas was the one I was talking about where they were a couple and then they split up, but they didn't tell their parents they split up. And then all this crazy stuff happens at home during the holidays because they didn't tell their parents that they split up. So, really sorry about that mix-up. But... And then I read another 42-page novella by Lynn Painter called December 15th. And it was about the characters from Better Than the Movies, Betting on You, and The Do-Over. And they just do these cute little Christmas activities together. It was really cute. Then after that, I read The Holiday Switch by Tiff Marcello. when I read the back cover of this, I really wanted to read it because it was about these two people who work together who like switched their phones on accident. But then that part of the story only lasted a couple pages. And then it was about something totally different. So I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to, but it was still cute. I gave it 3 stars. Then after that, I read In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, which is like another Groundhog's Day trope type book. It's about this girl who goes on like a family vacation with her family for Christmas. And on the way home, or like on the way to the airport to go home, they get in a really bad car crash. Then she wakes up on the airplane going back to the family vacation. And she just keeps redoing that every time something goes wrong until she gets everything right. That was cute. And then the last book that I read this year, All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox. I gave this one a 2.5 stars. I really could not stand the main guy, Max. He's like so full of himself that it just like turned me off from the whole book. But it's about these 2 characters who are on a reality TV show. Like it's like a reality singing show. And they get paired up together. And then the whole world falls in love with them as a couple. So they have to sing together for the entire show or people aren't going to tune in anymore. It's kind of cute, but I could not stand him. So it like ruined the book for me, basically. So thanks for watching today's video. These were the 69 books I read this year. Hope you have a great rest of your day.